Hey, hey, it's what? I can't hear you. What did you say? Poetry Electric. That's right. William Electric Black in the house here. La Mama's Poetry Electric. We've been happening for years and years and years. And guess what? Coming up in the fall, 60-year anniversary. What? Did you say 60 years? La Mama. Big shout out, of course, to our one and only original founder, Ellen Stewart. Yes, hey, hey, big shout out. We always got to give Ellen a shout out. And of course, now Mia, you rocking it with the fabulous La Mama staff, bringing it, always bringing it, whether it was in person. And now, of course, we've been doing some virtual online happenings. So we got to give a shout out to things that are happening, like, La Mama Moves, our dance festival, the Love Cabaret, Coffee House Chronicles, all these different things that are happening, La Mama Kids over the different, seasons. So, La Mama is still here, still doing it. We're happening, we're rocking. We love you, you love us. Hey, and of course, Poetry Electric has been in the house. And thank you, La Mama, thank you, Mia, you for bringing Poetry Electric in the house. And we've had an incredible season. And of course, it keeps happening. This is our final show of the season, and we want to thank you for being with us. Yeah, that's right. Being part of the Poetry Electric energy and keeping it happening here. And tonight, of course, my buddy, he's been part of the Poetry Electric experience. Jeff Wright. What did you say? Jeff Wright. That's right. Cover Mag, bringing it. And so we're excited to have Jeff Wright in the house with some of these unbelievable, artists that he has gathered, visual artists, spoken word artists, he is bringing it, and we are glad to have you here. And Jeff Wright, where is Jeff Wright? We're getting ready to bring Jeff Wright in the house. Jeff Wright. Woo-hoo!
Good Lord.
Talking about.
William, you're like a Duracell, I'll tell you.
Love you, man. Kick it.
I love your energy, sir. Thank you very much for having us all tonight. I'm really pleased and honored to bring everybody this wonderful lineup tonight. Most of the people are either in the magazine or be in the magazine. And I wanted to thank also my co-editors, Lori Ortiz, also the designer for putting the issue together, and Ilka Scobie, who will be reading at the Live Mag season finale on June 13th with Eileen Tabios and John Trouse and Dane Beveridge, a good friend of Chris Krause's. So also we have a couple of announcements. If you'd like to say anything to the readers, we're going to hang around a little bit afterwards, and you can put a comment or anything you want us to share on the Facebook chat, and we'll make sure it gets out there. So I just wanted to introduce now my my video that I'm going to be showing. Behind the scenes, also a shout out to Pierce for putting all this together. Thank you, Pierce. He's the man behind the curtain over there. This puppet show, I had a couple of puppets. I used them in teaching some. And then as I played with them, I only had a couple, and suddenly people were giving them to me right and left and loaning them to me. And so now I have like 24. And you're going to see some. These are outtakes that my son helped me put together, the film Seth Wright. And it was for my other son's granddaughter because suddenly she could not go to daycare anymore. And this was exactly a year ago. I did it for 100 days, just a small outtake, 4 minutes and 20 seconds. Please enjoy this. Here we go. Pierce, you ready? Okay.
I am Rufus, and I am bad. I'm going to visit my friends. Coming! Oh, your eye's so big. Oh, wow, there's a feather coming out of your nose. I don't know. What happened to Jeppy?
Now everybody's coming to my house. I'm never gonna be alone. Everybody's coming to my house. I'm never gonna be alone. Here at my happy home, there's nothing to fear, and everything we do, well, it brings us good cheer. Hello, hello, hello. Give us a kiss in love. Everybody's coming to my house, baby, and I'm never gonna be alone.
For you have been spiteful. Keep me lying up. While I do prefer moonlight, I too fancy life behind lids, greeting in 2-hour intervals with a prayer to remain enveloped in your sleek cervix. You have not been soft, no. Your advances firm and vulgar, taunting. I find the more I long for our union, the more you dangle your enigmatic cloak, bait for lips. I yearn for more than just a taste of your molasses extent. Tonight, feed me your regenerative mention. Building sand manors upon headrests, we let citadels perish. Watch waves create defeat, faulty mansions, grainy moats, rectify our hopes to let drown in the face of raw disaster. It is okay to let our mansions go. Okay to watch it all get knocked down. Worth hiding, no longer. Parched, the throat drenched, strange vigor cannot be held by ability to sell out, stooping to belittle this dear head, bowing in deference. Give up the back seat. Do not question whether we're there yet. Announcing saccharine arrival, 12:05. Filthy, proud. Take my virginity. I am born anew. Don't work so hard, child, to see your bounty. Let your unmistakable blaze flourish, commonly uncommon. You wildfire, child. Believe it. Elsewhere, in retrospect, I am Greece. I am nothing. Separately a part of all of this, spacious in spacelessness, gone and never to be seen again. I careen myself, travel in modern skin. Whilst drawing a bath, I do declare I love myself. My sugar cube morning star shine, patchouli sunset meringued lemon delight in my cup of splendid smooth. You are cozy and physical, the full-blooded ruby on my Sunday afternoon, dipped in your bassinet of goldenberry mistletoe, maple layered lady, finger pointing awe-struck, in love struck by the moon sick, the creme de la creme, and then some. Meditation, straight face, Zen monk, zigzag, crisscross, hot buns. Can I taste you yet? My everything. My mama baby's breath, belly laugh, acacia joy. Sweet lady on the day comes to save the eve whilst drawing a bath. I do declare I love.
I'm going to read some sonnets I've written, and I'll start with the one that's in Live Mag, and it's accompanied by one of Carl Hazlewood's wonderful works, and they'll be up a little later. This first one is called Made in America. If I were a less sane person, I would probably stalk Zooey Deschanel. After stalking her from 9 to 5, I would come back home to my wife and daughter and tell them about my day. I stalked Zoe, but I never saw her, I'd say. You're just not trying hard enough, my wife would reply. Don't give up. After glaring at me for a moment, my daughter would say, why don't you just find a real job? No one's going to pay you to stalk Zooey Deschanel. So I'll tell her about fame, about the things in this world that aren't real, and the rain and the empty river in a dream. I'm not doing this for money, I'll explain, and she'll turn away from me and back to her strawberries, pulling a plump red cone from the blue bowl on the table. And then this next one is a sonnet. It's about, it's a takeoff from my time in New York. This is called Flesh and Memory. When I moved to New York, I got a job with Nice Titties / Show Us Your Cock magazine. We were the competition and I wrote the captions. Whenever the Village Voice used the phrase postmodern griot deconstruction, I added the words nice titties beneath the photo of a B-movie actress wearing a low-cut blouse. Whenever the New York Times said, Mr. Pynchon improvises like a jazz musician, I typed in, show us your cock beneath the shot of a man wearing tight boxer briefs. Life was good, but when the 21st century arrived, things changed. Dick was the new cock and titties could never be referred to by the same word twice in an issue. It was too much to take, so I left the magazine, which folded 3 years later, and finally I left town. Whenever someone asks me what it was like, I tell them that it's something I'll never forget. And whenever they show me photographs of their kids, I just nod. And this is from a new series of sonnets I've been writing lately. It's called Sonnets for Electric Motherfuckers, and a lot of them have Godzilla in them because it's Godzilla. And this one is called The Poem Written While Waiting for Godzilla on the corner of North Capitol and K Street. Sometimes I wonder what names my poet friends would have if they weren't poets, but were professional wrestlers instead. Ryan Gilmore would be the Michigan Stomper because he lives in Michigan now, and his poetry stomps out all the bullshit. I could go on with more names, but then the poets I leave out would ask, why wasn't I included? This way, the only question is Brian Gilmore's who will ask, why the hell did you put me in your poem? I don't know. It happened while I was doing the dishes. It was a Monday, and I only got around to writing it down now. Meanwhile, wrestling goes on during this pandemic to empty seats, much like a lot of poetry reading. A massive pile driver with no one in the stands to watch, or a beautiful metaphor with no one in the library conference room to catch its subtlety, laugh a little bit too politely, and applaud me, the poet, who if he were a wrestler would call himself the electric motherfucker. I'll read this one. This is called The Cosmos Trilogy Meets Johnny the Head's Paltry Readings in Philosophy. I think I have a future as a professional self-pity coach. Why does everything happen to me, my client will ask. Because you're great, I will say, and bad things always happen to people who are great. Look at Marilyn Monroe, Bruce Lee, Jean-Michel Basquiat. Another client will say, I'm the worst person in the world. Yes, you are, I'll answer, before smacking that person in the face, because I once read somewhere that Zen masters knew how to say a book's worth of insights with a single strategic slap. Or as Roland Barthes once said about wrestling, each moment of the match is like a kind of algebra which instantaneously discloses the relation of a cause with its figurative effect. And today, as every day, there are weddings taking place, man and woman, woman and woman, man and man, they and they and they, and a million disparate philosophies in a space like an emptiness which can never be measured, never be sold. And here, a couple more. This is called, this is a character in this series of sonnets, Feliciano Ballisticchi's masterclass on labor and logistics. When I was a gatherer of sad, drunken days in New York, I wasn't drunk at all on one of my saddest. My mother in DC had made me some Filipino marinated pork, one of my favorite dishes since I was a child. Comfort food, you call it now. Packed with dry ice and sent express mail to my apartment on Avenue B, it got lost somehow along the long, lonesome way. I don't think it went to Philadelphia or Baltimore, Wilmington or Newark, though maybe it was taken to the Bronx or Brooklyn, where someone thinking he might find a pound of pot or something even better in the plain brown package instead found marinated pork. What made me sad wasn't the lost food so much as her lost labor, the effort to feed me that failed, because for those of us who are lucky, a parent doesn't begin to fail until a parent is old. And this meant that she was old, that from here on out, I would be living on luck. Mother, father, let no bad day erase us from the memory of our labors. Mother, father, let us age gracefully. And here's one more. This is called For Lovers and Other Refugees of the Fascist State. Love is like an element in its place on the periodic table, its properties made clear through comparison to all other elements. How easily love turns to liquid, the energy assumed in maintaining a gaseous state, the cold it takes to create a dense and fearsome mass. When solid, love is where we live, for there's nothing we can carry from it in this form. When it's liquid, we travel to and from love the way one rambles west in one's youth to find fame, then east to find fortune. Now we live in the age of vapors, gasping for breath, running for the exits. In the middle, oh, I lost my page there. Wait. I lost the ending of that. I'll read something. I don't know, this is what my publisher would want me to do. They'd want me to read a poem from my book. This, my book is Short History of Monsters. This short one is called Power Lunch. Feeling heavy pressure from all sides, I bit into a steak sandwich and grabbed a handful of greasy French fries. As women walked by in their short skirts, followed by men in rolled up shirt sleeves, I realized that the control I have over my sandwich is for me a beautiful and awesome power. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Carl Hazlewood. I'm a painter and artist and a lot of other things. And, I started writing for Jeffrey's cover magazine a while back. And I think that's our connection. So it's great to be here among poets. I emit a poem every now and then, but I'd never call myself a poet. Because people do poetry like I do painting, things come out of you, from your experience and your energy that you gather from people around you and from your own histories. So that's it, really.
That's great. I had forgotten that momentarily about that. Now I can see your byline in Cover magazine.
That's right. Yeah.
That's great, Carl. And as we were talking about before your show over at June Kelly, which is where the work that that's in the magazine came from.
Right. Yeah.
And talk a little bit about it.
Oh, well, I was doing many other things. I was a co-creator of Allstar Center for Contemporary Art, where I presented other artists and wrote about them, like in your magazine or for museum catalogs and that sort of thing, until it got to the point where I realized I had to do my own creative thing, you know? So at present, I'm what you might call a re-emergent artist. So I'm just re-emerging at this age, you know? And the show at June Kelly was one of my first steps out into public. I mean, I've been doing other things, you know, going on residencies, you know, in America as well as in Europe, and you know, it's been sort of a ride, you know. So
you know, that last work there reminded me a little bit of Joseph Beuys in a funny way, and other people too. But you had a show at 5 Miles Gallery also not that long ago.
That's right. Yeah, you know, 5 Miles is sort of right behind my apartment. So I would go out of New York to do my thing in Newark, where my organization was. And I never realized that right behind my house was this gallery, 5 Miles, and which is a great place, a meeting place for artists as well as neighborhood people and poets and writers, and you know, it's fantastic. So you know, when Hannah Turney, who's the director, asked me to show something, I did with a writer called Olu Ugwebi, a writer and an intellectual and many other things. That's when I started using that material, that gray material that I think reminded you of Beuys. My thing is less complex than Beuys's approach to art. I'm looking for a little joy, a little out of life. It's complicated right now, but I'm looking for enjoyment, the touch of that material, which is like suede, and it's beautiful and it's tough and it'll last forever. Like some people, you know, we are looking for a little escape.
And those people have a sort of another resonance with the Art Povera, some of the materials you're using.
Well, yes, but you know, I try not to think about art history specifically when I'm working. You know, it's something I've done all my life since a kid. You know, I'm from Guyana, South America, and there are no galleries or museums of fine art there. So my experience was really through reading books, you know. We had no fine art, but we had lots of great writers and poets, you know. So the Art Povera, I understand from my later studies about using material that is around, you know, but I'm interested in the transformation of these base material into something else, you know, like words into poetry, words into novels, you know. The material I use is translated into something that other people can respond to in a positive way, I hope, and with some enjoyment of form, shape, size, how it moves you, you know, and how you relate to it within a room. Lots of the things I do are made directly on the wall, and they are ephemeral. They last just a few, you know, they last as long as I have them up, you know, and they disappear. My little pieces, the one that you saw at June Kelly, were produced over time, collages, and they kind of sum up my experience as an artist, and art history, the things I've taken in, the history. You know, we talked about history before, but all these things come together along with my personal experience as someone who's collaged together, actually, as a as an immigrant, as a Black person, as somebody who's actually physically sewn together. You know, I was born with a open heart, you know, a hole in my heart. That's why I came to America. My mom brought me here to be stitched back together, which I was, you know, and that sort of fragility has always stayed with me. That's how I view life. It's a very fragile thing, you know. You work it through, you do what you want to do as well as you can, but you disappear, you know. So I think a great bit of my work is like that. And
there's a kind of irreverent yet formal quality to them that is very uplifting. And they're very surprising. They're not, I mean, they have a futuristic note, they have a geometric note, but they're very original, Carl. And the whole thing about being uplifting and the things you said, the altruism involved, is just wonderful to hear you talk about it.
Well, thank you. But yeah, you know, it's a whole way of living. I know things are complex. We lived through an awful year last year in certain ways. And for me, as a person who's also Black, you know, these things have resonance. And although I work in an abstract way, you know, I think it's a liberating sort of position to be in. I mean, there's uses for social, for art as a social act. And when that's needed to be done, I do it. You know, I'll make you know, something that could be used for a reason, you know. But otherwise, I'll do what is liberating for me and for others, you know. And it's liberating to have an imagination that transcends base reality, you know. And that's where I think poetry comes from. I mean, it's a complex thing, you know. It's complex where this thing arises from and how it's affected by what's around us and our own personal histories and so on. And that's why I always find it hard to talk about my own work, because
Great job. Great job, Carl. Thank you so much. That was brilliant, man. Yay.
Hello, that was amazing, Carl. I love your artwork. This is so great. I'm happy to be here celebrating Live Magazine. Thank you, La Mama. I'm going to share 3 poems with you. First poem. This is a living being to eat what falls from their body. I am the wagon wishing you would find me, a maple left uncut, the rock that smashes nothing, seeking a God who speaks to memories of life before the heart's affliction. Your cum tastes like hand sanitizer. What have you been up to? When too many die, we deceive despair with love, sex with a man at a funeral, destroying death in his car, a holy perforation for a ghost. For best wish, catch apple as it falls, eat seeds and worm to seal your destiny. Everyone puts what they've got into the wheel driving across America. Raw imagination faster than spirits keep up. I cannot remember the last day a digital watch was the only digital object in my life. The first heart transplant was the last day everyone alive had hearts we were born with. Something to get used to. I was only 1 year old, but do not remember anyone objecting to someone keeping their strength with someone else's muscle. This next poem is titled Impaled by Sharp Points of Wonderment. He insisted I should know names of extinct species, as though taxonomy ever meant preservation. Telling someone who they are instead of asking is where extinction gets its start. Another window into the carefully ornamented shadow. You call tails while the double-headed coin flies through the air. You say the new prison means good-paying jobs for generations. This is where I expect my vomit to land. You start using your therapist as a weapon against your friends. You pay to be told new furniture cannot combat the death of your bedroom. I imagine prison guards not yet born having lunch inside their parents, study design of the owl's feathers to study arms race of the night. And this last poem is the poem that Jeff graciously published in Live magazine. I'm happy to be reading it for you. Thank you again for having me in the magazine and at the reading. Only in stacking books can the tree feel its weight again. I am so fucking sick of nations and the men who love them. The number of suicides this afternoon hiding in the bottom of a cup. I feel feral out here. Found a man who likes me like that. Found a man who lives the way I do. 7 years on the road anniversary soon. You only have to destroy yourself for love until it is normal, which makes love normal, and refuse to live a day without it. An inferno of it. At 16, with sleeping with my mother's boyfriend, I was overwhelmed with it. Solids form around you until you struggle no more beneath it. Feel throat open in a word, naming new stars moving across the ceiling from the disco ball, constellations with stories to soften hardened hearts. We finished the night reading poetry out loud. Last night, Erica Kaufman's mind-blowing post-classic, Poetry and Love. Sure know how to hang a welcome sign out. Measure and transmit from the pink and adorable telemetry. No more waiting between parentheses. We now excel in the ether while holding hands. Thank you so much for having me.
Hi, everybody. It's really great to be together. I think that right now, more than any other time in the 70 years that I've been alive, artistic community is so important. And, you know, we have to combat this authoritarianism that's coming from the left and from the right. I mean, we have to stand up and do what poets do, which is tell the truth. And so thanks for having me here. I love listening to everybody. Everybody's so articulate. And thanks to La Mama, and thanks to William Electric Black and Jeff Wright for including me. So I wrote this poem this morning. It's called Life Lessons. I never studied any subject except life. I learned subtle realities from the wind, the rain, and hoarfrost. I experienced and watched acts of cruelty, acts of kindness, acts of ignorance, acts of apathy, and sometimes acts of joy and transcendence with the same resigned patience I learned at age 5 when I knew for certain that I was alone. I learned that life was hard and that pain, terror, and fear could descend at any time. Life was not predictable. I learned nothing good lasted, but nothing bad did either. Still, I saw magic everywhere, if not actual good, and I was grateful for my connection to the timeless natural world. I engaged, although alone, clinging to my little boat that had capsized years before, hoping that someone, seeing me gasping for air, grasping the side of the boat, might feel obliged to offer some assistance when I signaled my distress. I told my stories over and over again to each new stranger, hoping that someone might have the understanding, that someone might diagnose my situation, forever hopeful that someone would appear and offer me a clue of how to save my life, my capsized boat. No one could get close to me. I was that alone, distant but in plain sight, so close to drowning. Instead, each and everyone who passed or stopped saw me, the captain of my own ship, upright, the mast of my own boat. And hopefully I can read this one. It's on paper. I am a poet and I will die like a poet. No matter how good I am at theater or comedy or essays, I live like a poet and I will die like a poet. Either fast run over by a bicycle or the victim of falling, debris, an awning or scaffolding. And people will say, you know, she died right here. But probably I will dry out like most of the poets I have known. We dry out like leather. Our skin becomes like parchment, like the paper we write on. We dry out like flowers, like dried flowers in an almanac. We get younger and younger until you can trace our faces and know what we looked like at 30. Our clothes get dusty, our shoes too big, and we shuffle to the podium to read year after year. Our glasses thicker, our eyes roomy, with crumbs in our beards and crumbs in our beards. Outside my window, the fattest pigeon I have ever seen struts the railing of my fire escape. Another clown, another temporary visitor. See. This is, you know, I do Poets Theater. I'm from the lineage of Poets Theater. And this is Longing Lasts Longer, which was a theater piece I made in 2010. It was like a 90-minute theater piece, and then I reduced it to this song. Across the distance, I now believe I felt your thoughts. You packing me out of your life, you dismantling our relationship, our love. It's 2:30 a.m. and I go outside. There's a thickness behind my eyes. I think those must be tears, but they don't flow. They're hard, frozen behind my eyes. I only cry when I'm with you. Maybe you've been able to forget our love. It's a relic now, a souvenir from another time. You're ready for the new you and the new life that waits unknown. Longing lasts longer, longer than love. Longing lasts longer, longer than anything else. You want me to go? Because you want autonomy, I asked. Yes, you replied. That's what autonomy is. No, I thought. That's what privacy is. You want privacy, but I didn't say it. In LA, every night when I'm sure you're sleeping, I leave the house. I walk the empty streets smoking cigarettes. Me and the other homeless people, the street whores, hustlers and junkies, the pimps and drug dealers, the psychotics, schizophrenics, borderlines and me, all of us wandering that other city, the city of night, all of us stumbling around in the dark. I think I'm addicted to the chemicals formed in my body by my constant longing for you. All us broken-hearted people waiting to be loved, waiting to be saved. Love yourself, save yourself, be your own lover, your own friend. There's nowhere to hide from the innate sorrow of being human, from the longing that is intrinsic to our humanity, the longing that makes us different from our brothers and sisters, the animals, the knowledge that we will die, that those we love will die, that nothing ever remains the same. Now that I think of it, I used to lose you all the time, in supermarkets and parking lots, galleries and museums, airports and nightclubs. It always felt like I was never going to see you again. Maybe I always knew that you would go. What about a new love song, an ode to our inherited aloneness, a new anthem where we finally take responsibility for our own happiness? Longing lasts longer, longer than anything else. You want to be friends? I'm not a box of chocolates. You can't pick and choose. You can't take bites out of me and then put me back in the box. Longing lasts longer. Baby, you're going to find out. Longing lasts longer, longer than love. Yeah, longing lasts longer, longer than anything else. Now I was timing myself and let's see where I am. Oops, well, I think that's 7 minutes. I think I'm going to stop right there. So if you want to know more about Penny Arcade and my work, I launched a Patreon this year. You can join for like $2. It's dignity for all. I'm an anarchist. I don't believe in elitist bullshit. And there's many of my plays are there and live events. And also my long running biography series that I've been doing for 20 years where I interview highly self-individuated people and we edit me out. Yes, we edit me out because I don't need attention all the time. Thank you. Thanks. It's been great to be with everybody.
Woo, yes. Shout out to all of our artists tonight. Penny, thank you so much. C.A. Conrad, Carl, Jose, Jillian, Jeff Wright, Cover Magazine. What a night. Oh, what a night. I just love it. And, we're kind of, as I said earlier, zooming in from different places. And, I just want to say, what's going to be the new norm? What's the new takeaway from all of this? I've done more writing. I've been, for this year, the creative juices. I found another way to create. I'm going to be doing a solo show at TNC coming up, me on stage doing my thing, which I did way back. And then I switched up and now I'm coming back to solo performing. So, what have you all kind of found, artistically, within this time zone? Have you found like a new voice for yourself or re-emerging? I think Carl, you said I'm a re-emerging. Oh, I love that. I'm a re-emerging. Are we, did you find another part of you, anyone, things that you're working on?
I'll say something.
Penny,
I think the most exciting thing that happened was the what is it? What's the word when the river shrinks away? The receding of the marketplace, the receding of the marketplace, the receding of the marketplace. This was the most exciting thing. We experienced the death of capitalism. We felt what it was like, and the popularity contest stopped. So the people who get all the attention because they've got the connections or whatever the fuck it is, or, they've got the social currency, they deflated, So all of a sudden there was all this room, and I made more work during the lockdown. From March 18th till the end of August, I did 4 hours a week of live programming on Facebook. And we would have like 900,000 people from all over the world.
All over the world. That's the thing.
yeah, from all over the world tuning in. Well, because I have an international audience, and that was part of it, because people do depend on me for real connection. I don't do like social practice bullshit. My relationship is with the audience, and that's why I have a career, because if it wasn't for the audience, I wouldn't have a career, because I'm not liked in high places. But I think
Carl,
I think
how does it work? I just want to jump in with Carl. How does it work as a visual artist? How were you able to, did you post your things? Did you put it out there? How did you connect?
Well, I was always on Facebook for, and was great for connecting with people of different sorts, writers and artists and
Okay.
musicians. But I also, I connected to Instagram during that time, which is a bit more visual, and I've gotten a lot more friends, and that helps to expand your presence and how you exist in the world, So, I was supposed to go abroad again last year. I had 2 international solo shows I was supposed to do. They never happened, because of the situation. But, you find ways to survive. You begin to think of how things are different and how you could survive within that structure. And maybe sometimes it's good for you. It pulls you back and tells you who you are, really,
Right.
So I found it interesting. I thought I would have done more writing, but it's, you do what you do.
Jeff, how did you pull the magazine together? Did you find a problem, or no, you just kind of reached out?
Well, just to reiterate what Penny and Carl said, that was like really good. It was a really interesting situation. I saw some quote recently about you can't write poems without solitude, and there is a lot of truth to that. But also, you can't write poems in some ways without a community, So we had to find new ways to reach out, and the pandemic was like affecting our work, and the magazine got dragged out, which was okay for other reasons, but it was, I never mailed out so much stuff. God, I love the post office so much. Left a little note in the hall for the postal.
Shout out to the post office.
And it was great to be able to use, if this thing had happened like 10 years ago, it would have been more difficult, because like I saw TA's poem on Facebook, for instance, and Jose the same, and so there were other, you were connecting with people in a whole different way that you had to, and those skills will remain. There'll be augmentation nation bust out.
Jeff, can I just say something, Jeff? But those skills were old skills. That was the way we did things for 30 fucking years. That was how we were connected. And it was that sense of real community, not just gathering people as wallets, but, and I think that was what those of us who had that long history of living and working, in that kind of sense of artistic community, which includes the audience. The audience is not just a wallet, they are the midwives, of art, and I think that was what was pretty wonderful to know, that we could, we could survive and actually thrive in some ways more,
Jillian, you're writing, you're acting, so where are you in all of this? What do you, we connected early on in a play that we did, on Zoom. And then, so what else has been happening with you in terms of your writing or performing?
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone involved in this: Electric, Jeff, Pierce, La Mama, Live Mag, all the other performers. Thank you for sharing your beautiful work and for keeping the art alive during this time. It's been a wonderful time of shedding and growth and renewal. And I'm working on a collection that I wrote specifically during the pandemic right now. And it's been a beautiful onion-like process of unraveling the layers of my being. And, you know, during this time when we're so isolated, when we have been so isolated from other people, our art, our words are our friends. And it's just such a gift to be able to go to the page and trust that our friends are there for us, regardless of what's happening in the world. So thank you, all of you, for continuing to do that.
So CA, Conrad, Jose, you guys are not, you're what, Seattle, am I correct? Or DC? How did you, what's your been reaching out? I know Jeff got a hold of you, or how did that work, going long distance or connecting, or you've always been connected? What was going on for both of you?
I'm in DC, and yeah, I knew Jeff from way back when I lived in New York. And so, yeah, I'd done some of his readings way back then. And but this is the first time I got into his one of his magazines, which was great. And going back to that question about the pandemic, I actually got so much work done until I got COVID, like earlier this spring. And then when I got COVID, I hated just about all writing, especially my own. And I could, so many writers that I could read before, I would just put it down and put it away. And then my own writing, I just like hated it. I just thought, like, what a load of crap, you know. And then I'm slowly coming out of it now. I'm well enough that I was able to read my own poetry tonight and not barf. So I guess that means I'm getting better.
Wow.
So CA, what's going on with you out in Seattle? Am I correct?
I'm in Seattle right now. Yeah. You know, that question about the pandemic was great. And I was thinking about how those of us who, I mean, what I went through in the 80s and 90s, losing so many friends and people I loved to AIDS. This is my second plague. You know, a lot of people my age and older who are straight, most of the, you know, a lot of people, they're just like, oh, they refer to the bubonic plague. I'm like, why are you going back hundreds of years? One just happened.
Yes.
It's still going on, actually. There's no vaccine for AIDS. But, you know, the thing is, the poems that I read this evening, they're from a somatic poetry ritual I did where I've been on the road for over 8 years now. And when I'm traveling around the United States, I would lie on the ground and flood my body with field recordings of recently extinct animals. And one of the great things about the pandemic, I mean, if there is a great thing about it, and it's this. A lot of ornithologists in particular believe that the bird population was decreasing because they can't hear one another because we're so fucking loud. But during the pandemic, there were no cars or planes, and the birds' populations are rising because they literally in the spring can't hear one another with their songs because our cars and everything are so loud. But so it's interesting to see how we get the opportunity now to really see our impact on the planet. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. And then, you know, the air cleared up for a while. And that was like, whoa, yeah, great. We can breathe again. And, you know, I don't know, are we all going back to that? You know, is the air going to get clogged up with you know, I know they got the electric automobiles happening, I guess, you know, but like you're saying, are the birds now they won't hear because, you know, it's going back to that same kind of pollution of, you know, sound and air in our world. And as Penny was saying, money and, you know, the big spenders come out again. And how much pollution are we going to allow back in, you know, are we going to be inundated with is a question for us. And as artists, you know, how do we, are we going to navigate this, or what, you know, is Broadway going to be Broadway again? And was that a good thing? Or, you know, who has $300? You know, what's up with that? Maybe it's Broadway for the people the first few months. You know? let us go see a show.
Some of us.
And, you know, Electric, the other thing is that I feel like it's important for now that we fall in love with the world the way it is, not the way it was.
Yeah.
All this idea of, oh, but these animals that are extinct, they're gone. They're not coming back. Right. We have to now do this arduous task of reimagining our place in this planet after so much destruction.
Yes.
And I feel like the pandemic has been helpful for people to be more meditative about that.
Some of us lived through 3 pandemics because I'm 70. So I lived through polio, and I'm sure a lot of other people who are here, like Jeff, and, we lived through polio, so it's really interesting to live through 3 pandemics.
Yeah. And as artists, creative spirits, we're just gonna keep living until I think Penny, until we drop, until we just have to keep going. So, I want to really thank La Mama for allowing Poetry Electric. I mean, we've been happening for years, and thank all of you tonight. And, shout out to Pierce again. I know, Jeff, you gave him a shout out, but, La Mama and the La Mama staff, and, Ellen Stewart, oh my goodness. And, Mia, you now, and, keeping it happening and all the institutions that we have downtown. I hope everybody continues, who's watching, to support La Mama, support Theater for the New City, some more support all the downtown venues, Nuyorican, keep it happening, keep the downtown energy happening, come downtown, support a lot of things that are happening, downtown, and the independent artists and the artists that have a few dollars or have a little spot to just do their thing. Please keep, come out and support the folks, support the poets and the writers and the dancers that, don't have the big budgets of $1 million, $2 million. They got a little budget and they got a little show.
2 million, try 10,000, try 5,000.
Let's keep it happening for all of us and make that maybe the new norm of what we can do and who we can be, and so again, I want to thank everybody. I love just face, just like, yeah. Woo, fight the power.
The best.
And again, really, it's just, I think Zoom, I was talking about, it's great actually to catch up to people who are not here. I mean, normally we would be, on 4th Street at Poetry Electric. And, it's interesting that, yeah, you can reach out and then have other folks from, around the world, really, to be in on what you're doing and listen or take part. I know they said like Sundance Film Festival, they opened it up. Finally, they had people from all over the world could kind of come in and watch. So maybe, those are some good takeaways. Anybody think about that? Sort of a last thought in terms of, Zoom and catching it up to people this way. You think some performing venues will keep this happening? Any thoughts on that? Or
I think they should, because it opens it up beyond your borders, It becomes more inclusive,
Yeah, it's easier to show art. It's easier to like manage and everything. Yeah. What I envision is a double barrel where you've got a live performance and a Zoom thing on the wall.
Happening.
Well, when the internet started, I remember, Jeff, you may remember this, like around 1990, between like 94, 95, 96, there were these attempts in the East Village. I participated in a bunch of them, where there was, a live event and then it was being shown online. But the idea there was to get more people to come out to the live event. But what happened instead was that there were 50,000 people online and 6 people in the venue, so, I mean, this is, there are different periods when different things, occur. This is not an important time for art in the culture. It's a very degraded time for art in the culture, because the vast number of people are not interested in art. They're interested in cocktails and cupcakes and, whatever. So I love the whole Zoom thing because it gives me and everybody opportunities to interact, like doing this. We could do this every week if we wanted to, you know what I mean? And I think that you would create, an extended audience also, and with a variety of artists, not like the same 3 people all the time, So I love it. I love it.
No, it's great. It's definitely been a way to reach out Jeff, what about those puppets? I wasn't just saying that little puppet show, Jeff, that was kind of rocking there. You wanna tell us a little bit about that?
Was Rufus there, the little wolf that knocked over he was there? Oh, good. Okay. I couldn't tell. I got nervous. Oh, was that the wrong clip? Yeah, that was so much fun, man. I tell you, because you couldn't see anybody, you couldn't do anything. So I had an assignment every day at noon for 100 days. It was exactly the same amount of time everybody clapped out the window. It's like, okay.
7 p.m.
100 Days of Solitude, right?
Right.
Yeah. I was lucky to, I mean, you know, it's what we've been saying. It's all about the community, because all those puppets practically were given to me. And then this opportunity dropped in my lap. Why? Because I'm part of a community, you know? And you really feel good when you can help fulfill a need of some sort, you know, in a creative way. It's the best.
Jeff, is there a shout out about the magazine? Can folks get it? How do they contact you? Any
Yeah, it's on livemag.org.
Livemag.org, great.
And it is so great to have and it's the only magazine that I know of that is equally art and poetry. Nice. And it's printed matter. In fact, I did it 50% art and 50% poetry, because printed matter's cutoff to carry it was to have 50% art. And I thought, well, that makes sense, because the art really helps the poets more than the poets help the art, although the greatest critics are poets.
That is like Charles Henry Ford's View magazine in the 1940s.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was, you know, 50% writing and 50% visual arts.
Oh.
You know, and that was what Andy Warhol, you know, was inspired by Charles Henry Ford to create Interview. You know, but of course that was a different thing. But yeah, it's like View magazine.
Yeah, very cool. Anybody else with a shout out? Anything going on? CA, you got any tours? Anything? Any readings coming up? Anybody?
Well, I'm going to be interviewing Ann Waldman on June 4th for Woodland Pattern Book Center. Or is it called, excuse me, Woodlawn Pattern? Or is it Woodland?
It's going to be on their website, on the bookstore's website.
Go to Woodland Pattern, and it's in Milwaukee. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
it's June 4th.
Okay,
cool.
That'll be fun.
Cool. Anybody else shout out? Jillian, Jose, anybody? Carl, anything happening, Penny?
Yeah, I'm working on a joint project with a photographer friend of mine where we take photos of strangers that we meet on the street, and I write poems to accompany those photos. We're on Instagram, so you can find us there. 3friends.camera is the handle.
3friends.camera.
Very exciting.
Cool. Carl, anything, Penny?
No, I'm just, I just want to, maybe a shout out to the people who created this residency I'm at. That's the Ryman brothers. They created this place for artists that they could come, and it's very cheap, you know, and it gives them a place to center themselves. They started it just at the point where the COVID thing began. So yeah, everything is a little off, but I'm very pleased.
Where is it located?
It's in what's the area of Brooklyn? Damn. But it's on 40th Street. It's right near Industry City. Right. Sunset Park. Yes.
There you go.
Sunset Park. So, but you know, it's I'm here, and it's fantastic. You know, they allow me to do what I do, and it's for a year instead of just a couple of weeks, or you know, and it's fantastic.
Great.
Yeah,
that's great.
And Jose, I'm proud to say you got rejected from American Poetry Review. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
My man. I made up some great shit about you guys, but it didn't quite make it into the PR list. I should resurrect it. I'll send it out to you. It was so iffy. I don't know if I mean, you know, like you were the unofficial something of DC, the I don't remember what it was. And CA was kind of the glitz and grit maven. I used the word maven. I had to look it up to see if I get in trouble. I will definitely find that and send it out to you.
Funny. Carl, what are the dates that your show is running at June Kelly? I'd like to go down there.
It's unfortunate. It ended just before COVID.
Oh,
When COVID started.
why did I think
But-
it was on now?
I wish it was, but it's not.
All right, well, I'll go on. I'll go on her website.
Yeah,
You can see
it's,
stuff there, yeah.
she has work there, I guess she'll show it if somebody asks to look at it, so.
All right. I think, with all said and done, this is a beautiful night. Thank you again, all of you. This is like,
Oh, wait, here
good
it is.
heads up.
Here it is. Penny Arcade. The legendary, outspoken, one-woman pets and dedicatedly brilliant, proudly self-described fag hag. C.A. Conrad. Glitter and stardust metamorphose in their marvelous intersection between laser focus and invention. Astonishing. Carl Hazlewood, artist who arranges quixotic elements in ambiguous context, evoking troubling feelings of satisfaction and curious joy. Jose Padua, DC's Miller Williams award-winning answer to deep state poetry. JILLIAN Stevens is a dancer and lover of language who was raised on the beat. And me, AKA Mr. Fun, is back with the whole cast of the Rufus Show, stage for his grandkids.
Woo!
That made the cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Bust out nation. Woo!
Bust Out Nation. Thank you, William. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pierce. Love you guys so much. It's so
Thanks a lot. We'll catch up to everybody.